Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really tearing into the messy reality of return to office mandates.
hmm
You hear the executive reasoning all the time, right? We need it for the culture or for those, water cooler moments.
That is exactly the conflict we saw in the sources. Leaders are so focused on those visible things, the empty desks, the real estate costs, but they are systematically underestimating the hidden
The
costs,
more devastating costs.
far more devastating.
So leaders think they're solving one problem, the empty office, but they're actually creating these much bigger problems.
Mhm.
Talent loss and, frankly, breaking promises.
Precisely.
So our mission today is to unpack that. Let's start with what the source has called the single most destructive effect, this idea of adverse selection.
Yeah, this part is fascinating. The RTO mandate, it basically acts as this terrible selection filter.
A filter, how so?
It's a mechanism that actively pushes your best performers out the door because, your most talented people, the ones with in-demand skills and strong networks, they have very low switching costs.
Okay, but hold on. Isn't that a bit of a generalization? Surely some top performers will just comply to keep their job.
That's a fair question, but the research is pretty clear. This top tier, they're in such high demand that they can basically dictate terms. They can demand flexibility or just, walk across the street to a competitor who offers it.
So when they're forced back,
Mm.
they don't comply, they just leave.
They exit, and that leaves the organization holding on to, well, the less mobile, the less marketable performers.
So you win the battle for physical presence in the office.
Right.
But you're bleeding out institutional knowledge, mentorship, your best projects leads. It sounds like a massive self-inflicted wound.
It is, and it weakens your employer brand for years.
Mm-hmm.
But the sources also highlight that this isn't just a talent math problem. It's a profound violation of trust.
Which brings us to the psychological contract. So
Exactly.
what does that breach actually feel like for an employee on the ground?
It feels like betrayal. I mean, think about it. Organizations spent years praising employees for being so productive while remote. Flexibility was frowned as a permanent reward, a retention tool,
A new way of work,
a new way of working. And then to just reverse that policy, it triggers what psychologists call reactance.
That's that feeling of having a choice taken away that you feel you've already earned.
It's a deep-seated need to resist threats to your autonomy. And that resistance, it translates directly into lower commitment and people updating their resumes.
And I imagine that feeling of betrayal isn't felt equally by everyone.
Not at all. And this is where the equity concerns get really serious. These policies disproportionately burden caregivers, and particularly mothers, who often rely on that flexibility.
So you risk reversing years of diversity gains?
Potentially, yes. And then there's the other side of it, the people who relocated during the pandemic.
Right. They moved for affordability or to be closer to family with the understanding that remote work was the new norm.
And now the mandate essentially penalizes them for making a perfectly reasonable financial decision. It creates this unfair burden based purely on where they live relative to an office.
You're punishing them for trusting you.
It's the definition of an unfair cost. The commute time, the gas money, the stress, it all hits your lowest earners the hardest and just erodes loyalty even further.
Okay, so let's tie this all together for the leaders listening. The big takeaway seems to be that a lot of organizations are treating hybrid work as a simple policy challenge.
Right, like a box to be checked.
But the research suggests it's actually a leadership capability challenge.
It is. I mean, if you look at the organizations that got this right, like Allstate or Capital One,
Mhm.
they didn't default to presence-based monitoring.
They didn't rely on bad swipes.
No. They invested in their managers. They shifted to outcome-based performance management. They measure results. Did the project get done well? Are customers happy not? Whether your laptop is connected to the office Wi-Fi,
They design policies with their people, not just for them.
that's the key.
So I guess that's the ultimate question, isn't it? If your organization is fighting to force everyone back with these rigid mandates, you have to ask yourself, are they really fighting for culture, or are they just fighting to preserve pre-pandemic norms of control? That's something for you to think about.